Take a moment now to find a comfortable position. Allow your body to settle into the support beneath you, letting the weight of the day simply drift away, like leaves floating down a slow, winding river. Close your eyes and turn your attention inward, to the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of your breath. There is no rush here, no place you need to be, nothing you need to solve. There is only this moment and the quiet space we are creating together. As you breathe in deeply, feel the air filling your lungs, expanding your chest. And as you exhale, feel a wave of relaxation washing over you. From the top of your head, down through your shoulders, softening your hands, and grounding you in a profound sense of stillness. Tonight, we embark on a journey of understanding, a gentle exploration of a world that exists in the shadows of our collective imagination. We are going to peel back the layers of a subject often clouded by misconception, looking past the headlines and the dramas to find the quiet truth beneath. We turn our minds to the concept of the white-collar prison, a place that occupies a strange, almost mythical space in modern folklore. It is fascinating how the mind constructs entire realities based on fragments of stories we have heard, or scenes we have watched on a flickering screen. When we hear the phrase white-collar prison, a very specific set of images likely blooms in the mind's eye. We might picture manicured lawns, green and lush under a gentle sun. Perhaps the soft sound of a tennis ball striking a racket, or the clinking of ceramic mugs in a relaxed, open-air cafeteria. The myth suggests a place that is not truly a cage, but rather a pause, a temporary inconvenience for the wealthy and the well-connected. We imagine a world where the walls are porous, where the loss of freedom is merely a suggestion rather than a hard reality. This image, often referred to as club fed, has taken root in our culture. It is a comforting story in some ways, or perhaps a frustrating one, depending on your perspective. It suggests that status serves as a shield, that even in punishment, there is a velvet rope separating the privileged from the harshness of confinement. We imagine executives trading stock tips in a garden, or politicians writing memoirs in a library that smells of old paper and polished wood, untouched by the grit and the grayness we associate with the traditional idea of incarceration. But tonight, we are going to gently dismantle this image, not with force, but with the soft light of truth. We will look closer, zooming in past the aerial view of the green grass to see the texture of the days lived within those boundaries. We will explore what it truly means to have one's autonomy stripped away, regardless of the thread count of the sheets or the absence of iron bars. Let us drift deeper into this contemplation. Imagine yourself walking through a mist, the fog of these myths swirling around you. The mist is composed of all the rumors and the movies, the caricatures of wealthy bankers and fallen moguls. As we walk, the mist begins to thin, revealing the landscape of reality. The first truth we encounter is the nature of time. In the mythical version of this world, time is leisure. It is a vacation. But in the reality we are uncovering, time is a weight. Imagine, if you will, a clock on a plain white wall. The second hand moves with an agonizing slowness. Tick, tick, tick. In these places, the greatest adversary is not a harsh guard or a dangerous cellmate, but the crushing stillness of time that has been emptied of purpose. The myth tells us that white-collar facilities are resorts without the bill at the end. We imagine freedom of movement, long afternoons spent wandering the grounds. But let us look closer at the concept of the count. Several times a day, regardless of who you were in the world outside, regardless of the millions you moved or the companies you built, you must stand still. You must be counted. You are reduced to a number, a body to be tallied. The psychological impact of this, the stripping away of the individual identity, is something the myths rarely touch upon. There is a profound silence in the realization that you are no longer the author of your own day. We often think of prison in terms of physical hardship: cold stone, darkness, noise. And while the white-collar facility may lack the gothic gloom of a maximum security fortress, it possesses a sterility that carries its own kind of heaviness. Imagine a dormitory, not a private room, but a space shared with dozens of others. The myth suggests privacy, a quiet study where one can reflect. The reality is a bunk bed in a room that never truly sleeps, surrounded by the breathing, the shifting, the murmuring of strangers. There is no door to close. There is no sanctuary to retreat to when the world becomes too much. The luxury of solitude, something we often take for granted in our own bedrooms, vanishes completely. Let us consider the sensory experience of this myth versus the reality. The myth smells of fresh-cut grass and perhaps the faint aroma of coffee. The reality is the smell of industrial cleaner, of floor wax, of mass-produced laundry detergent. It is the hum of fluorescent lights that buzz with a low, incessant frequency. It is the color beige and the color gray, covering every wall and every floor. The visual landscape is flattened, devoid of the vibrancy of the outside world. In our collective imagination, we see these places as cushy. We use words like easy or soft. But let us meditate on the concept of separation. No matter how soft the mattress might be, it is still a bed located far away from the people you love. The myth ignores the phone calls, timed and monitored, the voices of children or partners drifting through a receiver, close enough to hear, but impossible to hold. The pain of missing a birthday, a graduation, or a funeral is not mitigated by the presence of a volleyball court. The emotional walls are just as high, just as impenetrable as any stone fortress. As we drift further into this topic, let your body relax even more deeply. Feel the comfort of your own freedom, the safety of your own space. You can move if you wish. You can open your eyes if you choose. And that simple knowledge is a luxury beyond measure. We must also explore the myth of the company. The idea that these camps are filled solely with non-violent intellectuals, a gathering of the minds. While it is true that the violence is lower, the tension of confinement remains. The social hierarchy is stripped away. In the Chow Hall, a former CEO sits beside a man who sold illicit substances, who sits beside a doctor who committed fraud, who sits beside a young man who made a mistake with a computer. The distinctions of the outside world dissolve into the uniformity of the khaki jumpsuit. Everyone wears the same clothes. Everyone walks the same track. Everyone waits for the same doors to unlock. There is a humbling quality to this reality that the myth fails to capture. The myth paints a picture of arrogance maintained, of men who continue to run their empires from behind the fence. But the reality is often a profound crumbling of the ego. It is the realization that the power once held was fragile, and now it is gone. To stand in a line to receive a ladle of food, to be told when to wake and when to sleep, to have your locker searched by a guard young enough to be your child. This is the texture of the white-collar experience. It is a slow, quiet erosion of the self. Think of the landscape again. The club-fed image usually includes a lack of fences. And it is true. Often there are no razor-wire towers looming overhead. But there are boundaries, invisible lines that cannot be crossed. And sometimes, an invisible boundary is more psychologically taxing than a physical one. To see a road, just there, leading to a town, leading to a highway, leading home, and to know that stepping onto it would bring ruin, requires a constant, exhausting internal discipline. The freedom is right there, tantalizingly close, yet infinitely far away. It is a peculiar kind of torture, to see the world moving on without you, just across a stretch of grass. We are debunking the glamour. We are washing away the cinematic gloss to reveal the mundane. Boredom is the primary color of this world. Not the leisurely boredom of a Sunday afternoon, but a corrosive boredom. The days stretch out like a desert. Work assignments are often menial. Wiping tables, sweeping floors, cutting grass for pennies an hour. The myth says these individuals spend their time plotting their next move or enjoying their ill-gotten gains. The reality finds them seeking any distraction, a book, a card game, a conversation, anything to make the hands of the clock move a little faster. As we continue to breathe, slow and deep, we acknowledge that suffering is relative. It is true that these facilities are safer than many others. It is true that the physical conditions are less severe. But pain is not a competition. The loss of liberty, the shame, the isolation, these are universal human experiences. The myth dehumanizes the people within these walls by suggesting they are immune to punishment, that they are getting away with it. But tonight, we simply observe the human condition in a different setting. We see the anxiety, the regret, and the longing for home. Imagine the sounds of the evening in such a place. The lights dimming, but never going fully dark. The quiet rustle of hundreds of men settling into bunks. The coughs, the whispers. It is a communal existence that never ends. There is no off switch. In the myth, the white-collar prisoner retires to his quarters. In reality, he climbs onto a thin mattress, stares up at the ceiling, and is left alone with his thoughts, surrounded by strangers. We are peeling away the resentment that often fuels these myths. It is easy to feel that justice is uneven, and perhaps it is. But for the purpose of our relaxation, for the purpose of understanding, we let go of judgment. We simply look at the structure of the day, the wake-up call before dawn, the making of the bed to military standards, the inspection, the uniformity. It is a life of rigid structure imposed upon adults who once commanded boardrooms. It is a return to a state of almost childhood dependency, waiting for permission to eat, to move, to speak. The resort fantasy dissolves when we consider the lack of agency. In a resort, you are the customer. You are served. Your needs are anticipated. In a federal prison camp, you are the property of the system. You are processed. Your needs are secondary to the security of the institution. The contrast between these two states of being is sharp and undeniable. So, as we rest here, Suspended in this quiet narrative, we let the image of the tennis court fade. We let the image of the country club dissolve into the mist. In its place, we see a simple, stark reality. A place of waiting. A place of gray routines. A place where time is the currency that must be paid, second by second, minute by minute. We have begun to open the door to this hidden world, stepping past the velvet rope of the myth and finding ourselves on the concrete floor of the truth. It is a quieter story, a sadder story, but it is a real one. And in that reality, there is a strange kind of peace, the peace of knowing, of understanding, of seeing things as they truly are. Drift along with these thoughts, letting them settle in your mind like dust motes in a shaft of sunlight. The myths are just stories. The reality is just life, paused and contained. And you are free to let it all go, to simply be here, safe, warm, and listening. And as we remain in this space of quiet observation, we allow our focus to drift further inward, moving past the imaginary gates of the country club and walking softly into the physical reality of the housing unit. The mind, influenced by movies and headlines, often constructs a picture of luxury here. It paints a scene of private rooms, perhaps with a view of a manicured lawn, a desk for writing memoirs, a soft bed with high thread count sheets. We have heard the term club fed whispered so many times that we have begun to believe it implies a resort, a place where punishment is merely a word and comfort is the standard. But let that image dissolve now, like sugar melting in warm water. Watch it disappear into the gray ether. In its place, let the true architecture of this world emerge. We find ourselves standing in a large, open room. It is vast, perhaps the size of a gymnasium or an old warehouse repurposed for storage. The air here is still, recycled, carrying the faint, permanent scent of industrial cleaning fluid and floor wax. There are no private suites here. There are no heavy oak doors to close against the world. There are no brass handles to turn. Instead, we see rows and rows of metal bunks, or perhaps low-walled cubicles. It is a landscape of enforced intimacy, a place where the concept of solitude becomes a memory, a luxury far more precious than gold. Imagine, if you will, a small space, perhaps 8 feet by 8 feet. The walls, if they exist at all, rise only to chest height. They are cinder block, painted a thick, glossy cream or a pale, institutional green. They offer a visual boundary, but they do not stop sound. They do not stop the gaze of the guards walking the perimeter. They do not hold back the reality of the 100 other men sleeping in the same room. The bed is narrow, a steel frame bolted to the floor or the wall. The mattress is thin, covered in vinyl that crinkles softly when you move. It is not designed for comfort, but for utility. It is fire retardant. It is easily wiped down. It is a slab of foam that remembers nothing. There is no duvet, no heavy quilt. There is a scratchy wool blanket, usually gray or olive drab, and sheets that have been washed so many times they have become thin and translucent. This is the bedroom of the white-collar prisoner. It is not a suite. It is a shelf in a warehouse of souls. As you visualize this, let the sounds of this space drift into your awareness. The myth suggests a library-like quiet, a respectful silence where one can contemplate their stocks and bonds. But the reality is a constant, low-level hum. Because there are no full walls and no doors, sound travels freely here. It ripples across the dormitory like waves on a pond. There is the constant drone of the HVAC system, pushing lukewarm air through rattling vents. There is the sound of television, drifting from the common area, usually tuned to news or sports, the volume locked at a specific level. There is the sound of shuffling feet, the squeak of rubber soles on linoleum, the clatter of a plastic locker closing. And at night, when the lights are dimmed but never truly extinguished, there is the sound of humanity sleeping, a chorus of breathing, the rhythm of snoring, coughing, the shifting of weight on metal springs. To sleep here is to sleep in a crowd. You are never truly alone. The presence of others is a weight that presses against you, invisible but heavy. Let us walk softly now, moving away from the sleeping quarters and drift toward another persistent myth, the myth of the dining experience. The stories often tell us of catered meals, of salad bars, of lobster and steak served on china plates. We imagine a cafeteria that resembles a corporate headquarters, with choices, with flavor, with dignity. Let that image fade, crumbling into dust. Replace it with the Chow Hall. It is a loud, echoing space. The tables are stainless steel, bolted to the floor. The seats are round metal stools, attached to the table leg on a pivot. There is no linen. There are no waiters. There is only the line. The line is a defining feature of this life. You wait to sleep. You wait to shower. And here, you wait to eat. You stand on the concrete floor, shuffling forward inch by inch. You hold a plastic tray, usually orange or brown, scratched by thousands of washes, bearing the scars of countless meals. When you reach the serving window, there is no menu. There is no chef asking for your preference. There are workers, fellow inmates, dressed in white paper hats and aprons, serving whatever the master menu dictates for that day. It is a cycle of carbohydrates and proteins, calculated for caloric sufficiency, not for enjoyment. It might be a scoop of wet, gray oatmeal in the morning, a slice of processed turkey for lunch, a ladle of pasta with a thin red sauce for dinner. The food is fuel, nothing more. It is often lukewarm. It tastes of sodium and preservatives. It is the taste of bureaucracy, standardized, mass-produced, and entirely devoid of love. You take your tray. You find a seat at a metal table. You eat quickly, surrounded by the clatter of plastic forks against plastic trays. The conversation around you is not about mergers and acquisitions, but about the small, petty grievances of prison life. Who cut in line? Who stole a packet of instant coffee? When the commissary order will arrive? There is a profound humility in this ritual. The man who once ordered bottles of wine that cost more than a car now sits on a metal stool, carefully wiping the last streak of gravy from his tray with a piece of dry white bread. The palate, once refined, must learn to accept the bland, the starchy, the repetitive. The ego starves even as the body is fed. And as we drift further through this day in the life, we must look at the body itself, or rather, how the body is adorned. The myth tells us that these men wear their own clothes, that they lounge in cashmere sweaters and expensive tracksuits, that they maintain their individuality through their attire. But the institution does not like individuality. Individuality is messy. Individuality is a security risk. And so we see the uniform. It is not stripes. It is not bright orange, usually. In the federal camps, it is often khaki, or a dull, lifeless gray. Imagine the fabric, a blend of polyester and cotton that breathes poorly. It is stiff at first, then limp with age. The pants have an elastic waistband, for there are no belts here. Belts are dangerous. Belts are forbidden. So men, grown men who once wore tailored suits and silk ties, shuffle along in pants that gather bunchily at the waist. The shirts are buttoned down, but they are ill-fitting, too large in the shoulders, too tight in the neck, or the other way around. They are stamped with a number, a registration number. This number is now your name. It is how you are tracked. It is how you are identified. On your feet, you do not wear Italian leather loafers. You wear steel-toed work boots, heavy and clunky, issued by the facility. Or you wear cheap, canvas slip-ons that offer no support. The sensation of walking changes. You do not stride with purpose. You plod. The weight of the boots, the looseness of the clothes, it changes your posture. You become softer, rounder, less distinct. You look around the room, and you see a sea of khaki. The distinctions of the outside world have vanished. The lawyer looks like the drug dealer. The CEO looks like the bank robber. The doctor looks like the fraudster. In the uniform, everyone is equal. And that equality is a heavy burden for those who built their lives on being exceptional. Let us pause here, in the middle of this gray afternoon, and observe the passage of time itself. The myth says that time in a white-collar prison is filled with leisure. Tennis lessons, yoga classes, painting workshops. We imagine a schedule that is open, fluid, relaxing. But the reality is the count. The count is the heartbeat of the prison. It is the ritual that supersedes all others. Several times a day, at specific, unyielding hours, everything stops. 4 p.m. Stand-up count. Imagine the scene. A loud buzzer sounds, or a voice booms over the intercom. Count time. Stand by your bunks. No matter what you are doing, you must stop. If you are reading, you close the book. If you are sleeping, you wake up. If you are using the bathroom, you finish immediately. You return to your cubicle. You stand beside your bed. You stand still. And you wait. You wait for the guards to walk the rows. They walk slowly, clipboards in hand. They look at you. They look at your ID card. They make a mark on the paper. They move to the next man. You cannot speak. You cannot move. You are frozen in time. You are merely a number to be tallied, an item in inventory. Sometimes the count clears quickly, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Sometimes someone is missing, or the numbers don't add up, and so you stand, and you stand, and you stand, for an hour, 2 hours, until the discrepancy is resolved. In these moments of standing, the reality of confinement settles deep into the bones. You are not a guest at a retreat. You are property of the state. Your time is not your own. Your body is not your own to command. You are held in place by invisible threads of authority, suspended in a vacuum of waiting. There is no tennis court here. There is a walking track, perhaps. a loop of dirt or asphalt circling a patch of dying grass. Men walk this track, round and round and round, like hamsters on a wheel. They walk to burn off the nervous energy. They walk to tire themselves out so they can sleep. They walk to feel like they are going somewhere, even though they are going nowhere. The view from the track is not of rolling hills or ocean waves. It is of fences, even at a minimum security camp, where the fences might not be topped with razor wire. They are still there. Or perhaps there are simply out-of-bounds markers, red lines painted on trees, signs that say, "Do not cross." The boundary is psychological as much as it is physical. You stay within the lines. You shrink your world down to this few acres of concrete and dirt. The horizon is cut off. The world outside, the world of colors and choices and speed, continues on without you. And as the sun begins to set over this landscape, casting long shadows across the dormitories, the sense of grayness deepens. The lights in the compound buzz to life, harsh sodium vapor lamps that turn everything a sickly yellow-orange. There is no evening cocktail hour. There is no browsing the internet to see what happened in the world today. There is only the mail call, the most emotional part of the day. Men gather, hoping for a letter, a connection, a piece of paper that has been touched by a hand on the outside. When a name is called, there is a flicker of hope. When it is not, there is a quiet slumping of the shoulders. The isolation is absolute. We drift through this routine, feeling the texture of it. It is smooth, featureless, and unrelenting. It is a grind. It is not the sharp pain of a physical blow, but the slow, eroding drip of water on stone. It wears you down, layer by layer, until the person you were on the outside is just a ghost, haunting the person you have become on the inside. This is the middle of the journey. The novelty has worn off. The fear has dulled into a constant ache. The days blur into one another, distinguished only by the menu in the chow hall or the weather in the yard. So take a deep breath now, inhaling the imaginary air of this place, cool and smelling of rain on pavement, and exhale, letting go of the tension, letting go of the need to be anywhere or do anything. You are safe here, observing from a distance. You are free to come and go, but for now, we stay. We stay to understand. We stay to witness the stripping away of the illusion, watching as the gold paint flakes away to reveal the iron beneath. Rest in this understanding. Let the rhythm of the narration hold you. There is more to see, more to uncover, but for now, just breathe, just listen. The dormitory is settling down for the evening count. The noise is dropping to a murmur. The world is narrowing down to the space of a bunk, a blanket, and the thoughts in one's own head. We wait here, in the quiet gray, ready to see what lies deeper still whenever you are ready. The silence of the count is heavy, a physical weight that presses down on the shoulders, settling into the spaces between the bunks. It is a time of suspension, a collective holding of breath. In this stillness, we can begin to dismantle the architecture of the myth, the tall tales of luxury that have been spun by headlines and movies, stories that paint these places as resorts with fences. But as you drift deeper into this narrative, let those images dissolve like sugar in hot water, leaving only the clear, unvarnished truth. There is a pervasive idea, a persistent whisper in the cultural consciousness that this is a place of comfort. They call it Club Fed. The mind conjures images of manicured lawns, of tennis pros giving lessons, of catered meals and soft beds. But look closer now, through the lens of quiet observation. The bed beneath you, in this imagined space, is not soft. It is a thin slab of foam atop a steel pan, narrow and unyielding. It smells faintly of industrial detergent and the thousands of bodies that have rested here before, each one leaving a ghostly trace of their restlessness. There is no privacy here, no sanctuary of a private room where one can shut the door and be alone with their thoughts. The concept of a door itself becomes a memory, a relic of a past life. Here, you are one of many, a single thread in a coarse fabric of humanity. You sleep within arm's reach of a stranger. You hear their breathing, the rhythm of their dreams, the sudden start of their nightmares. The air is shared, recycled, thick with the humidity of overcrowding. This is the first layer of the illusion peeling away, the myth of personal space. In the world outside, space is a luxury, a sign of status. Here, space is non-existent. You are always seen. You are always heard. Let your mind wander to the common areas now, the spaces that the news reports might describe as recreational facilities. Perhaps there is a tennis court, yes, but walk towards it in your mind's eye. Feel the uneven pavement beneath your feet, cracked by winters and neglected by summers. See the net, sagging and torn, fluttering listlessly in the breeze. It is not a place of leisure, but a place of killing time. There is a profound difference, a deep and melancholic distinction between leisure and the desperate need to fill the empty hours. Men walk the track here, around and around, in an endless, hypnotic loop. Watch them from a distance. They are not strolling the grounds of a country club. They are pacing the perimeter of their cage. The walking is a compulsion, a way to burn off the anxious energy that accumulates in the limbs when freedom is removed. Left foot, right foot, the crunch of gravel, the scuff of rubber on concrete. It is a meditative rhythm, but it is born of confinement. They walk to tire the body, so that perhaps, when the lights dim, the mind might be tired enough to sleep. And what of the food? The legendary menus of lobster and steak, the rumors of gourmet chefs serving disgraced executives. Let that image fade into the gray reality of the Chow hall. Imagine the smell of it now, not the aroma of a restaurant, but the heavy, starchy scent of institutional cooking. Boiled vegetables, processed meats, the metallic tang of canned fruit. It is fuel, nothing more. It is calories delivered on a plastic tray, eaten with plastic utensils that bend under pressure. The meals are a reminder of dependency. You eat what is given, when it is given. The illusion of choice, the simple dignity of deciding what to put in your body, is gone. The food is lukewarm, the textures are uniform, and the taste is the taste of monotony. Day after day, the cycle repeats, a culinary grayness that mirrors the walls, the floors, the sky beyond the razor wire. There is a calmness in accepting this truth, in seeing the mundane reality beneath the sensational headlines. It is not a torture chamber, no, but neither is it a holiday. It is a warehouse, a storage facility for time. And time, here, has a different texture. It is viscous, thick like molasses. It drips slowly, agonizingly slowly. In the world you left behind, time was a river, rushing and dynamic. Here, it is a stagnant pond. Consider the medical care, another pillar of the club-fed myth. The idea that these facilities are like private clinics. Breathe in the reality of the waiting room, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, a sound that burrows into the temples. You wait. You wait for hours, for days, sometimes for weeks, for an aspirin, for a consultation. You are a number on a list, a file in a cabinet. The care is adequate, perhaps, but it is stripped of compassion. It is bureaucratic. It is cold. To be sick here is to be vulnerable in a way that is hard to describe. It is to be at the mercy of a system that views you as an inventory item rather than a patient. There is no concierge service, only the long, silent line and the indifference of the clock. As we rest in this middle space, between the shock of arrival and the numbness of the routine, we must acknowledge the invisible bars. The physical fences are low, yes. In some camps, there are no fences at all, merely a painted line on the grass that you must not cross. But the psychological fences are towering. They reach up to the clouds, blocking out the sun. The greatest myth of all is that white-collar prison is easy because the physical conditions are less brutal than high security. But punishment is not just about stone walls and iron bars. Punishment is the stripping away of identity. Imagine a man who was once a captain of industry, a person whose signature moved millions of dollars, whose voice commanded rooms of people. Now, visualize him standing in front of a folding table, folding laundry for 12 cents an hour. The task is repetitive, mindless. Smooth the fabric, fold, stack. Smooth, fold, stack. The ego is sanded down, layer by layer, until only the raw wood remains. There is a specific kind of pain in the loss of relevance. The world outside continues to spin. The markets open and close. Decisions are made. Technology advances. And you are here, frozen in amber. You are watching the world through a keyhole. This is the punishment that the club-fed stories never mention. The irrelevance. The silence of the phone that doesn't ring. The letters that become fewer and farther between as friends return to their busy lives, leaving you in the static of the past. Let us walk now, in our imagination, to the visitation room. It is the weekend. The air is charged with a nervous energy. This is the intersection of two worlds. Families arrive, carrying the scent of rain, of perfume, of fast food, scents of the free world that are intoxicating and painful all at once. You sit on a plastic chair. You cannot hold your children in the way you wish. You cannot wander off to a private corner. You are watched. Every hug is timed. Every conversation is monitored. The luxury of this place dissolves entirely in the face of this separation. To see the people you love, to see the grief in their eyes, the weariness in their posture, and to know that you are the cause of it. That is a weight heavier than any chain. The visit ends. It always ends, and you must watch them walk away. You must watch the door close, and then you must turn back to the grey. You must undergo the strip search, the humiliation of proving you are hiding nothing before you can return to your bunk. The transition is jarring. One moment, you are a father, a husband, a son. The next, you are an inmate again. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The mask slides back into place. The heart hardens just a little more to protect the soft tissue within. Breathe deeply, acknowledging the heaviness of this understanding. We are debunking the glamour, finding the solemnity in the truth. There are no golf courses here. There are only patches of grass where geese land, indifferent to the boundaries of men. There are no 5-star meals. There is only the sustenance required to keep the body functioning for the state. There is no ease. There is only the suspension of life, the great pause. And yet, in this stripping away, there is a strange, paradoxical peace that can be found. When the illusion of importance is gone, when the need to impress is removed, what is left? We are left with the basics, the breath, the beat of the heart, the sensation of the wool blanket against the skin, the sound of rain on the metal roof. The myths of Club Fed are created by those on the outside, perhaps to comfort themselves that justice is not too harsh, or perhaps to stoke the fires of indignation. But here, on the inside, those myths are meaningless. Here, there is only the day, and the day after that. As the evening count clears and the dormitory begins the slow ritual of sleep, the reality settles in. The televisions in the common room cast a flickering blue light over the rows of bunks. The noise level drops to a murmur, a low hum of whispered conversations. Men talking about their cases, about their appeals, holding on to the thin threads of hope. Others talking about the past, polishing old memories until they shine like diamonds, trying to remember who they were before they became who they are now. You lie back, staring at the underside of the bunk above you. You can see the graffiti scratched into the paint. Names, dates, prayers, small testaments to existence. I was here, they say. I existed in this grey space. The air cools. The ventilation system clicks, a rhythmic pulse that mimics the passage of time. You are safe here, in this observation. You are floating above it, understanding it without suffering it. You see the fallacy of the easy time. There is no such thing as easy time when liberty is the price. We drift now towards the deeper hours of the night. The myths have been swept away, leaving the bare floorboards of reality. And on this floor, we can stand firmly. We can see clearly. The gold paint has flaked away completely, revealing the iron, cold and enduring. But there is more to understand. We have seen the environment. We have felt the loss of luxury. But we have not yet fully explored the society that forms in this vacuum. The intricate web of unwritten rules, the hierarchy that has nothing to do with bank accounts and everything to do with respect, and the quiet, desperate search for meaning in a place designed to strip it away. Rest your mind now. Let the images of the cracked tennis court and the plastic trays fade into the periphery. Focus on the darkness behind your eyelids, a velvet darkness, soft and infinite. The dormitory sleeps, or pretends to, and we wait, suspended in this truth, ready to go deeper still when the time is right. We drift deeper now, sinking past the surface layers of the physical world into the quiet center of the night. The dormitory is a landscape of shadows and breath, a collective rhythm of men sleeping in close quarters. Here, in this stillness, we can examine the invisible architecture of this place. We have spoken of the fences and the food, but now we turn our inward gaze to the society itself. There is a pervasive myth, a story told in the brightly lit rooms of the outside world, that a white-collar prison is a networking hub, a country club mixer where deals are struck over backgammon and future fortunes are plotted in the recreation yard. The imagination conjures images of former CEOs and disgraced bankers huddled together, keeping their skills sharp, preparing to emerge wealthier than before. Let that image dissolve like smoke in a drafty room. Watch it thin and vanish. The reality is far more grounded, far more human, and far more humbling. When the heavy steel doors lock for the night, or when the count is called, the bank account you once held holds no weight here. The title on the business card, the corner office with the view of the skyline, the tailored suits, they are ghosts. They do not exist within the perimeter. Here, the hierarchy is reset. It is a leveling, a flattening of the social earth so absolute that it can be disorienting. In this vacuum, a new social order emerges, one that has nothing to do with net worth. It is built on character. It is built on how one carries the weight of their time. In the dormitory, respect is the only currency that matters, and it cannot be bought with wire transfers. It is earned through patience, through cleanliness, through the ability to keep one's word in a place where words are often all a man has left. You might find, in the bunk above, not a fellow financier, but a man from a completely different walk of life. A drug offender, a young man caught in a conspiracy charge, a grandfather who made a mistake with paperwork decades ago. The segregation of the outside world, class, background, education, collapses here. You are forced into a brotherhood of circumstance. The myth of the exclusive white-collar club is replaced by the reality of the melting pot. You share the same showers, the same television schedule, the same air. And in this closeness, the ego faces its greatest challenge. There is no privacy to retreat to, no study to close the door of. You are always perceived. You are always seen. The easy time becomes a test of constant social grace. To live in a dormitory with 100 other souls requires a discipline of the spirit that few in the free world ever have to master. It requires silence. It requires the suppression of irritation. It requires a deep, abiding tolerance. Let us walk now, in our mind's eye, to the job assignment. Another myth awaits us here. The story goes that the work is symbolic, that men sit at desks or manage the library in peace. While those roles exist, they are rare prizes, hoarded and waited for. The reality for the newcomer, for the vast majority, is manual labor. Feel the weight of the mop in your hands. It is heavy, gray strands soaked in industrial cleaner. The scent is sharp, chemical, pine and bleach. This is the reality of the day, scrubbing the floors where hundreds of men walk, wiping down the tables in the chow hall, cleaning the showers. There is a meditative quality to it, if one chooses to find it, but it is also a profound stripping of status. A man who once commanded thousands of employees, who signed checks that could move markets, now stands before a scuffed floor, tasked with making it shine for 12 cents an hour. 12 cents. The wage is not about the money. It is about the submission to the system. It is a reminder, arriving every month in a digital account, that your time here is not your own. You are a cog in the maintenance of your own confinement. The myth of the vacation is scrubbed away with every push of the broom, with every tray collected and washed. The hands that once held fountain pens now hold rags. And in that tactile shift, the reality of the punishment settles in. It is not physical torture, no. It is the slow, steady erosion of the self-importance we carry so tightly in the world above. And what of the economy? If the bank accounts are frozen or useless inside these walls, what drives the trade? Imagine a small metal locker. It is the only space you own. Inside, stacked with precision, are the treasures of this world. Not gold, not stocks, but pouches of mackerel, bags of rice, postage stamps, a pristine pair of socks. The economy of the federal camp is a barter system, ancient and simple. The mackerel packet, the Mac, is the gold standard. It is the dollar bill of the cell block. Services are paid for in fish. A haircut, a tailored uniform, a drawing for a loved one, all purchased with the currency of the commissary. This may sound trivial, perhaps even amusing from the comfort of a soft bed, but feel the seriousness of it. When you have nothing, the small things become monumental. The anxiety of running out of coffee before the designated shopping day is real. The negotiation for a better pillow is a significant business transaction. The mind, seeking pattern and control, latches on to these small economies. It gives the days structure. It gives the illusion of agency. But underneath the bartering, there is a profound boredom. This is the heaviest element of all, the one the myths never quite capture. The movies show drama, conflict, plot twists. They do not show the hours that stretch like taffy, pulling thin and translucent. The easy time is actually a crushing weight of sameness. Groundhog Day, over and over. The same breakfast, the same count at 4 p.m., the same loop around the walking track. See the track now. It is usually gravel or dirt, circling a patch of grass. Men walk it endlessly, round and round. In the morning mist, in the midday sun, in the twilight. They walk to burn energy. They walk to tire the body so sleep will come. But mostly, they walk to simulate movement in a life that has stalled. You can see the grooves worn into the earth. Thousands of miles walked without ever leaving the square mile of the compound. This is the psychological toll, the stagnation. The world outside spins forward. Children grow up. Technology changes. Seasons shift. But inside, time is a flat circle. You are preserved in amber, watching the world through a thick pane of glass. The myths say this is a respite, a time to read and reflect. And yes, there are books. There is reading. But it is done against a backdrop of anxiety. Because while you are paused, life is not. Consider the telephone, the lifeline. In the corner of the day room, there are phones mounted to the wall. This is where the heart of the punishment lives. Not in the bars, but in the wire. You have 300 minutes a month. That is the allocation. 5 hours to compress a life into. You stand there, amidst the noise of the room, one finger in your ear to block out the sound of a card game nearby, trying to connect with a wife, a husband, a child. You hear the sounds of a kitchen you cannot enter, the barking of a dog you cannot pet, the laughter of a dinner party you are missing. The myth of the club fed suggests that these men are unaffected by separation, that their families are comfortable and waiting. But loss is loss. The pain of hearing a child cry because you cannot come home is the same for the banker as it is for the mechanic. The heartbreak of a partner moving on, of the silence growing between the phone calls, is universal. The gold paint flakes away further here. We see that the punishment is not just the confinement of the body, but the exile of the heart, to be forgotten, to be out of sight, out of mind. The social circle you thought would support you often evaporates. The networking buddies, the fair-weather friends, they stop answering the calls from the correctional facility. You are left with the core truth. You are left with the few people who actually love you, and you are left with yourself. And in this isolation, in this stripping away of the false self, something unexpected can happen. A quiet transformation, not the one the system intends, but one that the soul demands. When the noise of ambition is silenced, when the race for status is forcibly stopped, a man is left to sit on his bunk and stare at a blank cinder block wall. And in that blankness, he might finally see himself. Not the resume, not the net worth, but the human being underneath. The boredom becomes a canvas. The menial labor becomes a rhythm of humility. The loss of luxury becomes a lesson in gratitude for the smallest things. A fresh apple, a letter, a quiet moment of sun on the face. We are drifting now, towards the end of the sentence. The years have rolled by in our narrative. The hair has grayed a little more. The walk on the track has slowed. The locker is neat. The routine is mastered. The fear of the first night is a distant memory, replaced by a dull, enduring ache to return to the world. But the world they are returning to is not the one they left, and they are not the same men who entered. The myth of the pause button is false. You cannot pause a life without altering it forever. Rest here for a moment. Feel the stillness of the dormitory again. The night is deep. The breathing of the room is slow and heavy. The darkness is a velvet cloak, hiding the fences, hiding the razor wire, leaving only the mind, floating in the space between what was and what will be. We hover here, suspended in the realization that the cage is not just made of iron, but of time. And as the time runs out, a new anxiety begins to dawn, the anxiety of freedom. The gate is approaching. The final myth remains to be examined, the myth that once you walk out, it is all over, that the debt is paid, that the slate is clean. Breathe into that space. Let the air fill your lungs, slow and deep. The darkness is safe. The reality has been laid bare, and yet there is peace in knowing the truth. We wait now for the dawn and for the final step of the journey. The step across the threshold, back into the light, where the hardest part, perhaps, is just beginning. The dawn arrives slowly, creeping over the horizon with a quiet persistence that no wall can hold back. The light changes from the deep, impenetrable charcoal of the night to a soft, hazy gray, and then to the faintest hint of gold. Inside the dormitory, the air shifts. The rhythm of sleep is broken by the first stirrings of the morning. But for the one leaving, this morning carries a weight unlike any other. It is the morning of release. We drift toward this final threshold now, floating on the current of the narrative toward the heavy steel doors that separate the interior world from the exterior one. And here we encounter the final myth, the most persistent illusion of them all. It is the belief that walking out of the gate is the end of the story. The myth tells us that the debt is paid in full, that the ledger is balanced, and that life simply resumes where it left off, as if a movie reel were merely snapped back into place. We want to believe in the clean slate. It is a comforting thought, that we can scrub away the past and emerge pristine, untouched by the time we have lost. But as you breathe deeply, inhaling the imaginary scent of that final morning, you begin to understand the deeper truth. The myth of the clean slate is a fabrication. The experience of incarceration, even in a place deemed minimum security, even in a place the world dismisses as comfortable, etches lines into the soul that cannot be sanded away. The slate is not clean. It is rewritten. Visualize the walk to the gate. It is a slow walk. You are carrying a mesh bag, holding the few possessions you are allowed to take with you. Perhaps a pair of shoes that feel strange on your feet after months of wearing issued boots. Perhaps a set of civilian clothes that hang loosely on a frame that has changed, shaped by different food, by stress, by the relentless routine of the track. The gate buzzes, a heavy mechanical sound that vibrates in the chest. The door slides open, and you step out. The air hits you first. It is different here. It is uncontrolled. It smells of gasoline, of wet asphalt, of distant pine trees, and the uncontrolled chaos of the living world. It does not smell of industrial cleaner or recycled heat. It is fresh, and it is overwhelming. The myth suggests that this moment is pure euphoria, a cinematic climax of joy. But in the quiet truth of this meditation, we acknowledge the complexity. There is joy, yes, but it is braided with a profound disorientation. The world is moving too fast. The cars on the highway seem to be flying. The colors of the billboards are aggressively bright. The sheer volume of choice, of noise, of sensory input washes over you like a sudden wave. And as you step into the vehicle that takes you away, watching the fences recede in the rearview mirror, disappearing into the mist of the morning, the realization settles in. You are free from the building, but you are not yet free from the sentence. The white collar label follows you. It is a shadow that stretches long in the afternoon sun. The myth says you return to the boardroom, to the country club, to the life of esteem and influence. But the reality is a quiet dismantling of the ego. The phone does not ring as often. The colleagues who promised to stay in touch have drifted into the currents of their own lives. The title you once held, the status that defined your existence before the fall, has evaporated. There is a peace in admitting this. Let yourself feel the weight of that shed identity, like a heavy coat that was too tight, too warm, too constricting. It has been left behind at the gate. You are no longer the master of the universe. You are simply a human being, starting over. The journey continues into the realm of what is known as supervised release, the invisible tether. The myth of total freedom dissolves as you realize that you are still watched, still monitored, still accountable to a system that demands to know your movements, your finances, your associations. The walls are gone, but the boundaries remain. It is here, in this space of reduced circumstances, that the true work of rehabilitation begins. Not the rehabilitation of the state, but the rehabilitation of the spirit. You learn to navigate a world that looks at you differently. You learn the humility of filling out forms that ask about criminal history. You learn the patience of explaining, again and again, that a mistake was made, that a price was paid. The stigma is a quiet fog that surrounds you, but like fog, it can be walked through. It does not stop you. It only requires you to move with greater care, with greater awareness. This is the debunking of the final myth. It is not over. It is transformed. The experience of prison does not end. It integrates. It becomes a part of the tapestry, a dark thread woven through the brighter colors, adding contrast, adding depth, adding strength. Breathe into that strength now. Feel the resilience of a spirit that has endured the stripping away of the self and has survived to rebuild. The anxiety of the aftermath begins to fade when we stop fighting for the old life and start accepting the new one. The old life is a ghost. The new life is a seed waiting to be watered. The shame, the regret, the fear of judgment, these are just clouds passing across the sky of your mind. They cast shadows, yes, but they do not alter the sky itself. You are the sky, vast, open, capable of holding the storm and the sunshine alike. The journey through the myths of the white-collar prison brings us to this final resting place, the understanding that freedom is not a physical location. It is not determined by which side of the fence you stand on. We have seen men behind the wire who were more free in their minds than the guards who watched them, and we have seen men walk out of the gates only to build new prisons of bitterness and resentment around their hearts. True freedom, the kind that allows you to sleep deeply and without fear, is found in acceptance. Accepting that the pause button did not exist. Accepting that the tennis court was a mirage. Accepting that the club fed was a cage of iron and time. And accepting that the clean slate is a myth, because a slate with writing on it has a story to tell. A story of fall and rise. A story of error and redemption. Let the narrative of the prison fade now. Let the images of the dormitory, the fences, the visitation room, and the heavy gates dissolve into mist. They are no longer solid. They are memories, drifting away like smoke in the wind. You are here. You are safe. You are resting. The complexity of the system, the nuances of the law, the myths and the realities, they all fall silent in the presence of this moment. There is no judgment here. There is no count to stand for. There are no lights that hum. There is only the darkness behind your closed eyes. Warm, inviting, and infinite. Feel the surface beneath you. It is supportive. It holds you up without asking for anything in return. Feel the air in the room. It is your air. You can breathe it as deeply as you wish. There is no limit. There is no schedule. The mind, which has traveled through the corridors of these myths, can now unburden itself. The lesson has been learned. The truth has been seen. And in the seeing of the truth, there is a release of tension. The muscles in your face soften. The shoulders drop. The hands unclench. We let go of the need to define ourselves by our mistakes or by our successes. We are simply the breather, the observer, the quiet center of the turning wheel. Imagine a calm, flat body of water. The ripples caused by the stone of the past are widening, spreading out, becoming smaller and smaller, until the surface is glass again. The water reflects the stars. It is deep. It is still. This is the true re-entry, not into society, but into yourself, into the quiet sanctuary of your own being, where no fence can be built and no time can be taken away. Drift now. The words are becoming distant. The concepts are losing their edges. There is only the gentle rhythm of your own life, pulsing, flowing, continuing. The myths are dispelled. The reality is accepted. And peace, profound and heavy, settles over you like a soft blanket. Rest in this truth. Rest in this freedom. Rest, and let the silence take over.